Since I was looking through this Escampavia Pilar kit and giving a bit of a overview on it the other day, getting slightly interested in actually starting it. I've got the parts out for the first steps and I've looked at the plans here. So we've got the keel, we've got two slight strengtheners that go around there, we've got the propeller shaft and the propeller. Not much happening in photo 2. We've got all the frames, all the bulkheads going on, and then planking, which is sort of to be expected. Now, the slightly odd thing here is that the propeller shaft and the propeller go in step 1. So I had a look at that. Here's the keel, and the propeller shaft needs to get into position there, and the propeller would need to get on. Okay, two things to note. So I'm pressing this against there. Now I have to squeeze it open there to get it in, which means it doesn't actually fit in there. I would say it's at least a millimeter, possibly a millimeter and a half that needs to be taken off the wood to get it in. A little bit of a delicate structure there, you can see. Sort of relying on the shaft to provide rigidity to a part of the hole. You've got these two strengtheners that will go in, but they're pretty short and they're not going to be very significant there. The second thing that you can see is not only the prop, but once the shaft is in position, I don't know. Yeah, I'm guessing you can get the prop on afterwards. So they sort of put the prop on in step 1, and building the hole with a prop in position would be very, very odd. I'm looking at that now and I'm thinking, yes, there's no problem to get that prop in afterwards, because you'll be able to turn it from that side, you'd be able to tighten that nut, there's no problem there. It will be enough of a hassle having the shaft in position while you're doing the work, but so be it. So the very first thing that has to happen is to ensure that the shaft fits in properly, and that the attachment is rigid and has enough strength there. So this is a little bit thin, this keel, compared to that shaft. So my very first thoughts on this is that I may be wanting to beef up this structure, and I'll have a look at that as I'm fitting in the bulkheads. I don't know where this one goes exactly, but I need to figure out how I could get some strength on this keel. Even the bulkheads are pretty thin plywood, 3-ply, not a great 3-ply, but this keel is a problem. That is not the way I'd like to build my boat, and it's definitely not the way I would like to have my first planking going on with a keel that is so flimsy. If you've built this correctly with the shaft in there, now I mean this is already warped from the manufacture of the ply, So when you put in that shaft, it's not even just a case of thinning out and gluing it in position. You need to really make sure that this is absolutely straight at the time of the shaft settling in with its glue. But I would like the entire keel to be way more rigid when I'm getting my frames in position. And by the time I've got bulkheads on, which, if I'll show you that picture again, is a very, very flimsy structure at that point. So as I make my first observations of this kit, I can see what's the make or break, and the make or break is right there. That doing your first planking while these things can shift so easily is just not, I don't think that's right. Which means that you're going to need jigs or something. Now, you could put some upper bracing in while you're starting your lower planks so that nothing can move. So one of the options for jig is the deck, and although they don't show that, I'm wondering if positioning the deck, possibly a permanent attachment of the deck might even be considered, but that is going to very much restrict your access as you get to more than half of your planking. So while you're in that position of your planking, while you're at that stage of planking, you've still got very good you've got good access in this view to sort of add more glue and make sure your joints are all correct. With your deck on, you're basically restricting about half of the access, because now you'd need to work through the holes in the deck. I mean, it's not the worst. But when you get to the last bits of your planking, you're certainly going to be restricted. But I'm of the opinion that you're going to have to use this, and when I say use this, I mean mark off with pencil marks so that you can know exactly the correct position that your bulkhead should be at, to get symmetry and to attach to your deck perfectly. And that is not going to just happen by magic if you build according to the instructions and no reference to the deck at that point. So if I want to start on this, apart from just getting the shaft correct, and before I'm even thinking about the first planks, now you will notice there that the planking hasn't gone, that's still just plain keel right there. So the first half of the planking hasn't even touched the keel, which I'm going to have to look at. I'm not even thinking at this stage about the view of the exposed planking. So the bottom part can be painted. The top part, I'd probably keep it wood. And I would be wanting to do nice planking on that. This was I can't remember if this was double planked on that section. I don't think it was. I think this whole thing was just single planked. The instructions are very, 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 very scant. The instructions are not helping with anything about achieving a good build. They're simply indicating which parts to put on They're also one off on the picture references. It's not the worst. So I've got a flimsy keel and I've got flimsy bulkheads, both of which I need a solution to before this thing. There's no way I can plank onto such a flimsy structure. This is even worse than the marina as far as how flimsy the structure would be. I might even consider that instead of having this open, a temporary fix would be put in position there, so that while you're building, you can't be having planks pressing your bulkheads in a little bit. I mean, there's only, okay, that's a strong one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 strong bulkheads, and the most important ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 very flimsy ones, and these are the ones that matter. So, easy step. Get the spacing right to get that shaft in. Figure out which side, top or bottom, I need to take some wood off. Get these glued into position. And start on, yeah, I'd say it would be a very good idea to, even if you glued a temporary balsa cross section on there, and if you didn't want to go balsa, then even some of this, really at least get your bulkheads to remain as they are supposed to be. Now, I mean, what's the base measure? Do you assume that as it is right there out of the pulled out of the sheet, that's perfect? I'm going to have to go and measure it against. I'm going to have to go and measure every bulkhead's position on here exactly, place it in position there, and determine whether the bulkhead is correct there, so that when I put my bracing piece across there, that I'm bracing it exactly to the perfect fit onto the deck. So there's going to be no starting with any frames into keel positions for a while. It's going to be measuring bulkhead positions, checking bulkhead widths at the top, and strengthening up the bulkheads a little bit. That's going to be the jobs to start with, which I will try and make a start in the week.